Hello, Douglas County, and welcome to another episode of The Outlet. Today, we're here with the one and only Tim Lacey, aka the cookie guy in the purple tent on the side of the road, slinging cookies out here in Roseburg. Tim, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Glad
Awesome.
glad to be here on your podcast.
Glad to have you. So I'm really curious about what's going on out there with the cookies. What's the story behind this?
The story behind the cookies. The long story short is my wife had been baking cookies for 40 years for the neighborhood kids, and we decided all these years later we'd go ahead and try to start selling them to the general public in Roseburg because we have a very good product. We enjoy meeting customers, and so my wife is having a good time baking, and then we go sell it. We're having a great time.
Nice. And how is it doing? Like, are people really kind of liking the cookies? What makes your cookies different than something you could get at like Safeway or something?
Well, just all the love my wife puts into it. Actually, a couple things that make it different is we don't use big mixers when we're making our cookies. We do everything. We mix everything that we have by hand, and so you actually have a different feel for your dough at that point, and you know when to stop mixing it. And honestly, I think that with just the love my wife has for baking and people in general, I think it's just all of that put together that makes our cookie worth stopping by and having some, getting some.
Oh yeah. And I've had your cookies. They're pretty good. They're a little hard to compete with. I know some people will say, they're close, but they're not as good as my grandma's. Well, you might have to give them a second try because they're pretty good. They're starting to compete with even grandma's cookies. Uh, so I'm curious, before cookies, what were you doing?
Before cookies, we owned a small restaurant, and we owned Granny's Mini Hut, and we were cooking hamburgers, slinging fries and burgers, and just having a good time doing that. And I ended up getting sick, and so because I got sick, I had to. I ended up getting stage 3 colon cancer, or realizing I had stage 3 colon cancer, and I went on a 2-year time frame of getting better from colon cancer. But to be honest with you, I was doing chemo during that process, and the chemo stopped working, and so I had to quit taking the chemo, and I just was actually preparing for the end. And honestly, I went home and I was kind of thinking to God, hey, God, I guess if you don't touch me and heal me, I'm going to see you in a minute. And that was the honest to goodness feeling and thoughts and out loud discussions I had. And I'm not religious, but I do believe in Jesus and God and all that. And so the next morning when I woke up, I just felt a touch, and I just was 100% better that next day. And it was a noticeable difference. And so I decided I'd go to work and check out what my wife was doing because I hadn't been there in quite some time. And so I just went to check in, and my wife surprised my wife, hey, what are you doing here? And I said, well, hey, I feel good. So I just kind of wanted to come hang out. And, a couple hours later, my daughter shows up, and she looked at me. She goes, wow, you're doing really good, Dad. What's different about you today? And I didn't say anything for a couple of weeks to my wife or my daughter because I wanted to be sure that that's really what happened before I go saying something that may not have been true. So I waited a couple of weeks of feeling good, better every single day, and then I finally told them, hey, you know what? A couple of weeks ago, when you guys noticed that God touched me, and I'm better because I got so better so quick that they actually started the chemo back, and I was able to finish out. But what should have took 6 months of chemo ended up being 9 months. So it was quite a long process, and that's what I was doing. That's why I was left, and that's why I left, and nobody saw me for quite a while, and I just wasn't feeling very good. And then all of a sudden I got better, and so even though I got better, my wife had taken the brunt of the load, and because of that, it wore her down physically to run the restaurant and take care of me. So we decided the best thing to do would go ahead and sell the restaurant. And that's what we did. We needed to get out from under the stress of making those payments and trying to keep everything afloat. And so we was able to pay off the bills in the restaurant and just get by from day to day until we could get me back on my feet. And so God was a big part of that.
Wow. How long after you started Granny's Mini Hut did you get sick?
We'd had that about 5 years in. We were 5 years in when I got sick. And so.
Was it pretty hard to walk away from something that you started like that?
Well,
I mean, not like you had much of a choice, right? You were really sick, but
well, just for the record, we didn't start Granny's Mini Hut. We ended up buying it, taking it over
okay.
from the second owner, and they did a really good job with giving us some type of clientele to start. It was a small clientele, but it was a good, steady clientele that they handed us, and so we were able to springboard off of their success and create even more success. So we did have a previous owner, Larry and Bonnie, and they were very good to us and during the process. So,
Wow. Yeah, I had no idea when I first met you, because I met you while you were doing Mama Ginger's cookies, that you were the previous owner of Granny's Mini Hut. I'm like, that kind of blew my mind. Um, Man, what a journey to go from there to where you are now. I mean, that's pretty inspiring. That can elicit some hope in some people, like even in the hardest time where you think everything's about to just leave you. What was that moment like when you finally felt like you were free from that burden?
well, we were really free from the burden of owning a restaurant when we was able to locate a buyer, and somebody else took the reins and just took it over for us because my wife was so stressed out from taking care of me and trying to keep things afloat that even though when we sold the restaurant, that meant we didn't have any income, we had to be okay with that because the stress was kind of gone from that point, and we could start figuring out life for her and I kind of by ourselves. And so, even though there was no income for a bit, we did take a month or so just to kind of breathe. And then after a month or so, no income means you got to go get a job. So my wife was able to get a job right away. I struggled to get employment, but I did finally get a job and worked in customer service for a couple of years. And then so she's working a customer service job. I'm working a customer service job, and we just realized that cancer does something to you that it takes more than when you repair. I'm 100% healthy, but there's still elements of cancer left in me. Like being tired and stuff that cancer takes from you and doesn't give back to you. And one of those things is your strength and energy. And so I have to reevaluate what I can do for work. And so the reason why the cookies comes into play, and it's really a good fit for me personally, is because if I get tired, I can go sit down and take a break, and I don't have to, be sure I'm working a certain pace for this employer to make sure he's making his money from my efforts. And the cookies allows me to grow at my pace and do what I can physically and take a break and then get up and work and take a break because my wife does all the baking, but I do the packaging and the labeling. And so we both have true definitions and job duties in making the cookies, but because of what I just mentioned, now I can kind of go at my pace, and that works great. And we're not making a ton of money, but we are making ends meet, and so it's a good thing, and it works great because of my limitations. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, I see how much effort you guys are putting into the cookies and making it work. That's definitely something to be proud of. How far you've gotten in such a short time with the cookies.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So let's go back a little further before you bought Granny's Mini Hut. Have you always been interested in being an entrepreneur, business owner, or what's the story behind that?
Yeah, I had a paper out when I was 11 years old, so I've kind of that was the beginning of it. And I didn't realize that was the beginning of it, and that just kind of gave me a taste for, hey, I can do whatever I want. Of course, I'm 11 years old, so but it did kind of put the taste in that hard work equals money, and so I've always worked for other people. After that, I took jobs, and I was very good at sales and marketing, and I worked for several different companies doing sales and marketing. But, I just, so Granny's Mini Hut was up for sale 20 years ago, and we were supposed to buy it 20 years ago, and something happened, and the guy that was going to sell it to me decided he didn't want to sell it to me. So just that almost, oh wow, we almost bought a business, and just that little nudge of wow, we just about bought a business, kind of kept feeding my need to go, well, what if we would have had a business? How could we have done good? In kind of driving our own destiny, so to speak. And so because of that, and that little nudge of what if, 15 years later, I ended up at that restaurant and was talking to the owner, and he said, we're getting kind of tired. We'd like somebody to take this over. And I said, well, let's talk about that. And so that was the beginning of us taking over that business. And it all derived from a conversation we had 20 years ago that started the whole process of me thinking, well, what would it be like to be an owner and take that responsibility on? And it was a very difficult decision to make, because you're going from having a good, suitable employment to going, well, if we don't sell burgers today, we don't make any money. And although we were handed a thriving business of the hamburgers, they didn't have the customer. There wasn't a lot of customers at the time we took over, because they were getting up there in age, and so they were just doing what they could do, which we had to really double down on the business to be able to afford to do what we needed to do to make a living. And so, like I said, we were handed a good, viable business, but they weren't doing a lot of business. So it was a step of faith, so to speak. And we worried about it a lot in the beginning, but we did train there for 2 or 3 months, and I could see that, okay, there's a lot of potential here. And so we went ahead and took over the business and went for it. And all these years later, that was the best thing that we've done, and that grew us the most, about having to trust that we could do it. We had the ability. We have a good product. You have to have a good product, because if you don't have a good product, you're going to make some sales, but if you want return customers, you need to have a very good product. And so that's what owning a restaurant taught me, that. And so we carried that same belief system over to the cookies. And so, we've been trying to come up with a gluten-free cookie for months now, and we've tried several different recipes and all of these suggestions. Customers are very good about giving you suggestions, and so we've taken those suggestions and tried them, and recipe after recipe. And we're 3 months, 4 months into trying to find a gluten-free recipe, and I think we finally landed on one. But that's the work that goes into a business. Any business, you're gonna have to work. People aren't going to walk up and hand you money just because you smile. And so you have to have a good product. And if you have a good product and you do all of the things necessary to make that product go, then you're going to be successful.
It's good. It's good advice. Yeah, definitely. It's a weird transition, going from always working for somebody to working for yourself, and especially when it's becomes your primary means for survival. Like, it's all or nothing. And I had the same kind of experience starting this. I mean, there was plenty of hard times. It got really sketchy, but I had to make it work. And at the same time, I didn't want to go out and pressure people into buying my services or anything. And really, I didn't. I just was myself. And that ended up being good enough, which was strange to me, But
well, that is the other thing. If you're going to do something, you need to be real about who you are. Don't try to be somebody you're not, because you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool them all the time. And so eventually, if you're not yourself, people will see that, and they will not participate in whatever it is you're selling. So that's a good rule of thumb, is just to be yourself, man, and watch it work out.
Right. What's one of the biggest things you could say that's kind of helped you keep doing this? I mean, other than having to survive.
I'm hungry.
Yeah.
No, one of the things that you have to keep in mind when you have a business, any type of business, you have to be consistent. If you're not consistent, you can have a good product and not be consistent. You're not going to make it. You have to have a good product. Whatever your product is needs to be top notch. The second ingredient of that is you have to be consistent. Without consistency, you have nothing. And if if you didn't feel like, doing business today and you have to close because you just don't feel good, uh, if you don't figure out a way to overcome the sickness that you might have for that day or period of time and go with consistency. Consistency is the ingredient that makes the success happen when you have a good product. Consistency is what props up a good product. And so if I'm popping up over on Harvard on a Friday, I need to do that on Friday, every Friday, because the customers come to count on that. And if they go there on a couple of Fridays and you're not there and you haven't told them that you're not going to be there ahead of time, they're going to say, okay, well, he must not want my business because I'm here to give it to him and he's not here. Consistency is where it's at. And that's why if you see me on Harvard, it's usually on a Friday because that's my agreement to be there on a Friday. If you see me over at Abby's Pizza on a Tuesday, it's because my agreement is to be there on a Tuesday. And to be at the Roseburg Market over in the Rife's parking lot is on Saturday for a period of time through October because that's my agreement is to be there on a Saturday. Now, the thing about it is things do come up. And when they come up, I try to be the guy who communicates through Facebook. That's a very good avenue. And I try to keep my customers posted on where I'm at, what's changed, what hasn't changed. I try not to post too much, but I have enough going on that I actually post quite a bit. And even knowing that, I still try to slow that down a little bit. But I have a lot going on, so I do post.
Yeah, I see your post. That's good. The online consistency is important too, and it's something that a lot of people kind of forget to do. But making those online posts, that can be huge.
For those of you who might have nut allergies, we already sanitize our kitchen and clean it when we make the peanut butter cookie. And so we keep all the peanut butter cookie is totally separate. We don't use the same cooling rack. We don't use the same pans. Everything for the peanut butter cookie is in a different part of the kitchen, and we do it. We usually cook it last over in a very sanitized area of the kitchen that's set up specifically for peanut butter cookies and nothing else. We don't use the same racks, same pans. We keep that all separate so that, if somebody was to come to my booth asking for, they have allergies, you're safe to eat any of our cookies with the exception of the peanut butter because we make it separate. And I know I've repeated myself there, but I just want people to understand if you have nut allergies, don't be afraid to come to our booth and buy cookies because we take that serious. And we have made exceptions in our kitchen to be able to make the peanut butter cookie. And so I want you to know the gluten-free option is the same exact. We take a lot of care in the same magnitude that we took care of the peanut butter cookie. We also do that for the gluten-free cookie. And so don't think we're just in there mixing and matching and throwing stuff around and, having a great time with flour and making flour balls and stuff like that. We take our jobs very seriously, and we take very seriously the need for gluten-free and the peanut allergy is a big deal to us. So please know that when you come to our booth that we have taken all necessary precautions that we possibly could to ensure your success at our booth.
I met you at a meeting, a networking meeting, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on having a community as a business owner and how that changes your business and yourself. I mean, networking meetings or getting out there, just talking to the public. I mean, I know you're pretty much networking with the public all the time.
Well, I think networking is a big deal, but you have to make sure you're networking in the right arena. And networking is a big deal. And if I can help somebody's business succeed by giving them some information that I might have because I've already been where they're going, then that's a big deal to me to be able to help somebody. And likewise, if you've got information about something that I'm doing and you've already been there, so the commonality of business is a big deal to me. And if we happen to do business in the course of the day because of those network meetings, that's what it's all about. And I try to use the people in the network because we're building a network for the purpose of building each of our businesses independently, but also realizing there's more common ground in the community at large. And I think if more small businesses could plug into networking and networking meetings and gleaning from each other, that's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
It really is what it's all about.
Yeah, I think in some cases you might end up making more money outside the four walls of your business than if you were to just sit there all day and wait for people to come in.
Yeah, you have to, unfortunately, if you have a business, I try to limit this as best I can, but you have to live and eat and breathe your business, so to speak. But you do need to have a couple of days during the week where you're shutting that business mind off and minding your family. And that also is, when you're in your daily grind, you need to set limitations for yourself, because what happens is, you don't, your kids are grown, so it's just you and your wife at home or whatever, and so, oh, you got a couple hours to sit here and think about how to strategize, what we could do better in our business. But there's a point in the evening every day that you need to shut. Okay, after 5 o'clock, I'm not going to do anything that has to do with business, because my wife deserves some of me every night, every day. And if you will implement some guidelines to where you've worked your 8 or 10 hours or 12 hours a day and said, okay, it's 5 o'clock, I need to shut this off, because your family needs to be more important than, because let me tell you what I learned when I got sick is sick just happened. And then all I'm thinking about while I'm sick on the couch is, how's my relationship with my son? How's my relationship with my daughter? How's my relationship with my grandkids? If you don't implement those necessary steps to have relationships, when your grandkids are growing up, they're not going to say, well, grandpa, he put in 12 hours and then he came over and he did this or that. They don't care that you're working 12 hours a day. They don't care that you're putting in 16 hours a day. Your family needs your time, and they need time with you, being present with them. And true success happens at home, in your family. It's not just about business. It's not just about money. You need to when I got sick, I learned that, you know what? I have nothing to give. I'm sick. I can't do anything. I'm sitting here on this couch. But that's where you realize, oh, you know what? I'm not making any money today. I've wasted most of my last couple of years worried about business. And who came to see me? I had a lot of good customers actually stop by my house and visit with me on a regular basis. I was blessed in that regard. But most generally, when people are so wrapped up in business, the ones that they love the most are the ones that pay the price. And people don't realize that they work their butt off 60, 70 hours a week, only to realize when they're done, wow, my kids are grown, my grandkids are grown, I don't have any relationships. Then what are you going to do? And so for me personally, I've implemented the fact that, hey, at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon when I'm done, I got to go to my grandkids' house or my daughter's house or my son's house, check on them. It's about them. What can I do to make their life better? Because relationships is what's going to carry you through the hard times. And if you don't have relationships, all the money in the world isn't going to fix not having a relationship.
Wow. That's good advice. I definitely struggle with that turning it off thing. I feel like I'm always kind of working. And then my brain also works against me sometimes and decides that, the first half of the day is not work time. It's way later in the day. That's when my brain wants to do work. But I heard it recently on some kind of short video. I think it was actually Trevor Mock, the owner of Carrot. And he said that doing work outside the business, like doing things that you like to do that give you energy, is what's going to help your business. Not working harder or longer, but like giving yourself family time or doing something you like to do. That's what's going to help your business, because then you're going to have the energy when you come back into it to really be successful. And I thought that was really interesting.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you're charging your batteries, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And I notice a lot of the things that he talks about has something to do with the energy that you have for yourself, or like doing tasks in your business that take away energy. And like maybe those are the ones you should delegate so that you can focus on the things that give you energy so you can be the best version of your business owner self, and really just improve your quality of life. And I don't think that it's an easy task when you're starting a business or going into entrepreneurship and feel like you're wearing all the hats. And for me, it's like I always have something to do. I always have someone waiting for something, it seems like. So I think there's a level of guilt that comes with not doing those things.
Yeah, you got to get rid of the guilt, brother.
Yeah.
And I think time in the business and going through certain things and situations in life outside the business will open your eyes. Like when I got sick, I had 20/20 vision after I got sick, but it was too bad that it took getting sick to have that kind of vision, to be able to see where your uh, loyalties lie and where they need to lie and what's important to you. And like you said, if you could figure out something outside of the business to charge your batteries, to then go back in your business with a fresh set of eyeballs, you'll be amazed at how spending time outside your business doing what you really like and enjoy will give you energy and enthusiasm to then carry on your business. And I think it was designed like that early on in life, and we just got away from that because we get so busy, because we think busy is success, and busy is the robber of success, actually. If you slow down and use your time more wisely, being busy don't necessarily pay the bills. It just keeps you busy and away from some of the things that really do matter, like your family and stuff like that. You got to be careful being too busy. You got to watch that. You got to, block out time for your family. It's the most important thing I learned being sick.
Wow.
Money don't fix sick.
Right. And it took all that time before you got sick.
Yep.
You were just
Yep.
grinding away.
Grinding away. Just thinking, man, I'm doing good for my family. My kids are going to appreciate me. My grandkids, man, I'm going to be able to take care of my kids. You know what I was able to take care of when I got sick? Absolutely nobody or nothing. God touched me. That's what happened. And that process really did open my eyes.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of situations where it takes one defining moment to really kind of open your eyes and change your perspective on that. I think it's a hard thing to do if you're just in the middle of the grind. If someone just mentions to you, hey, just spend more time with your family, or why don't you go to the river and like just chill by the river today? I know you love doing that. To give yourself permission to just go do that instead of whatever client work you've got to do with or customers you got to deal with. That's the hard part.
It is, because you feel guilty because, if you just put a couple more hours in today, you could accomplish this task or that task. And then I can kind of relax after that. But, after that 2-hour time frame is up, there's always going to be a list of what's next. And you think, well, I'll come in early tomorrow and I'll make it. I'll be able to carve out more time because I came in 2 hours early. You know what happens when you come in 2 hours early? You stay 2 hours late. Now you've worked a 16-hour day and you didn't take any more time. You didn't carve, because you know what? There's always situations that come up that are going to rob you of your time. And that's what happens. So you have to be as diligent as taking time for yourself as you do about taking times for tasks in your business. And the hard part is how to determine how to take time for yourself when you're trying to still be fruitful in your business if you're not up to a livable wage yet. And that's the real struggle is, man, I'm working my butt off, but we still need money. And for me personally, that's where my relationship with Jesus comes in. And that's a whole nother discussion I'm not going to have here today, but my faith is what gets me through, and when I have my faith, his answers that he gives me through that faith is what helps me maintain the enthusiasm and the grind and get through the grit. Is having God to go to, and that certainly is one of the biggest helps that I have. So.
That's powerful. I know when I was doing, I did grocery delivery for like 3 years, and it was a independent contractor position, so you could work every day if you wanted to, and I did. And sometimes I would just sit in my car for 10 hours, depending on how busy it was, because you want to be near the grocery stores, right? You want to be ready to take the order, and it was a first come, first served basis. So
Oh wow,
whoever grabbed that order
that's
that was worth $40 first, they gotta take it,
that's
right?
intense. That's
And
crazy.
then I lived in Sutherland at the time,
Oh wow,
so I'd have to drive to Roseburg. Well, I'm not going to drive back to Sutherland and wait or anything. So I had to just sit in Roseburg all day. I did that for 3 years. And every day that I wasn't out there waiting for orders, I felt like I was just losing money. Like every day that I'm not working, I'm just losing money, not making any, because I don't know if it's going to be busy or slow this next week. And that was the only way I could pay my bills or support myself and the people around me. And that was brutal.
that is brutal.
I didn't take much time for myself. And I think that kind of etched that work ethic into me of like, if I'm not doing something productive, I'm losing. And it was always survival based. It was always, if I don't do this, bills are not getting paid.
Right.
Or I know that I need something. And if I'm not out there doing it, I'm letting myself down or my future self. I'm just making everything take longer. And then if I do take time for myself, then I'm being selfish in a way, you know? And that is a hard mindset to escape from, using it as a form of survival. So it's like what you said, if you're operating at a less than minimum wage because you're trying to run your business, how do you take that extra time to get out there and do something for yourself? I know when you come back, you might be a little more efficient. Like you might get through your to-do list a little better. You might have less brain fog, more focus because you're a little more charged up. But justifying taking that time, oh,
That's tough.
that's really hard.
It's
Yeah.
tough. And in my life, it's not as tough for me because I have a wife, and my wife is my helper, and we kind of try to help each other, and that's a big asset that I have that some people don't have. And I couldn't imagine doing life by myself. That would be tough. That'd be very hard. And so, thankfully, I have a wife that is very good about reminding me of what needs to happen today, and she keeps me grounded as far as, well, we haven't seen the grandkids in 3 or 4 days, and I'm thinking, well, yeah, but we got to work. And she's saying, yeah, but those grandkids aren't going to care about how many hours you put in. And so my wife is a big part of what helps me stay grounded.
It's good to have that.
It's good to have that.
A
Yeah.
source of grounding.
And so if you don't have a spouse, maybe you need to get a kind of a mentor person or a friend, and somebody you could confide in and just talk about business that that they're not going to talk to anybody else. Because that's the one thing about the networking, that you can kind of talk a little bit, but I've been bitten a few times, so I'm very careful who I talk to and what I say to whoever, because you just don't know really who you're talking to. And that's the benefit of having a wife. But if you don't have a wife, then you need to find a mentor or a friend in business that you can confide in. And I've had that over a period of time, because there was a period of time I was trying to separate my wife out of the business so she could be my wife and not have to worry about the business. And I was able to find a couple of friends that I could talk to, and they were very good friends, and they would not, go air my laundry or whatever. And I could tell them, yeah, today was a slow day, and I knew they wouldn't tell anybody, and they would encourage me. Hey, you know what? You can't bat a home run every day, but just tomorrow when you get back to work, just do what you can, man. You guys have a good product. Just keep going, keep grinding. And, they would come and they would support me on site once in a while, and just sit down and start talking about things that mattered. I mean, I had one friend who would just come pick me up, take me fishing sometimes, and just, so it's good to have good friends. You need to have a good quality circle around you. And by having a good quality circle around you, that absolutely helps.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I think I was having a conversation with Coach Paul Eckel one time, and he had said to me that one of the transitional periods in his life was when he realized he needed to surround himself with better people. And that is so true. That's part of the reason why I go to networking meetings or business meetings. I want to be around other driven people, other business owners, other like-minded people. Because for most of my life, I didn't know where I could find better circles or meet people. A lot of people, they end up at like the bar or something like that. And you might meet some decent people there, but I feel like it's a lower threshold
Right.
than going to a meeting at 7 a.m.
Right.
So, but I mean, that's been like really instrumental, is surrounding myself with other like-minded people. I mean, that's helped a lot put things in perspective for me. And just like this conversation right now, you don't get these kind of conversations on a regular basis.
Right.
You got to seek these kind of people, other growth-minded people.
Right. And the one thing I do try to do is to take my eyes off myself. I'll try to, encourage somebody else and kind of listen to what their business model is and where they're headed. And sometimes that kind of causes you to refocus. Oh, I haven't thought about that in a long time. Yeah, and so talking to somebody else and listening to their business model or, things that they're struggling with that maybe you've already went down that road, and you can say, well, hey, what about this? I know a guy that is the person that you need to help you do X, Y, Z. And that person does that person can help you with a Facebook page. Yeah, he's really good. And that kind of stuff. And people need that. They need avenues to go down. And it's not that they don't want to go down the avenue. They don't know, they weren't aware that was a possibility. And so by talking to other people and listening to what their business model is, sometimes you learn things and you go, wow, we're supposed to be working together. And that's just a reminder of, hey, I need to be helping these people. And to be able to pull that off is a good thing, because then what happens when you help somebody, that's potential to have a lifelong friendship. That girl I met this weekend, and we're helping her we're at an event, and there was another business owner there that needed some help, and I had the answer to her, and I plugged her into the guy that she needs to go with, and what a huge thing, because her she's had a rough go of it, and for me to be able to go and say, hey, you know what, I've had a rough go of it too, and this is what we did. And so let me introduce you to my friend. And so my friend was able to help her, and we're just waiting and excited to see her thrive and succeed, to be able to go, yeah, man, that's great that you're doing okay, that you're doing good, that the encouragement that we provided worked. And so honestly, that's what it's about. Help anybody you can when you have the chance.
Yeah. Yeah, 100% agree. It doesn't even have to be a big thing. It could be just a little thing. It could be you got a small business that they're trying really hard, they're passionate about it, but they know nothing about Facebook or online. It's not their world. And if they had the right resource, they could,
Well, look what you did for me, man. I know Facebook, but I don't know how to create pages and stuff. And I got a hold of Shane Hayes right here, and man, he hooked me up. That brother hooked me up, and we're doing good. And a lot of it's because of Shane and who Shane is and his connections. Shane's awesome. You guys need help with anything Facebook wise or page wise or anything. The guy talking to me right now is the connection.
Well, that sounds like a call to action. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Was that a call on action?
I don't know.
I don't think it was.
It might be. It just won't be in the radio edit, but that's why it goes on several different platforms. But yeah, I mean, being able to be a connection for somebody, that's been huge. Having people reach out that truly need help with something, that's what this is all about, really. And hard part of the beginning of starting the Roseburg Plug was like, I kind of started it to support those people who didn't have connections or didn't have resources, didn't have enough money to do marketing, that didn't have the know-how to make a video, when it was clear that's what they needed. Like, they needed a logo, they needed all the stuff. But then you reach out to like have that stuff made for you through other people's services, and it's like really expensive. So that's kind of why I started it. And growing from there and having to charge more for my services was a weird transition, but also realizing I have to get paid in order to be able to help those kind of people.
Right.
And yeah, this has been a fun journey. I've been learning a lot. And like you said, going and talking to these people, going to networking meetings and learning their perspectives and what they're doing has been really important for this.
Yeah.
So I go to as many meetings as I can. Just
I've noticed that.
yeah, connecting all kinds of meetings. Sutherland Chamber of Commerce, Winston Chamber of Commerce. I'm on the Oakland Economic Development Council, if you want to call it that, and the Destination Downtown Roseburg Promotion Committee. I'm everywhere, but I want to hear problems. At the heart of it, I'm a problem solver who wants to help people. So I get a lot of energy from solving problems. What have you noticed that a lot of business owners in the area might be lacking in their business, and a couple things that you might advise them to do to maybe improve what's going on?
The Roseburg general public is Roseburg is a very loyal community. And, if I've seen businesses get on their Facebook and they're giving the customers a hard time because they're an appointment-based business, and these appointments generate around money, and somebody missed an appointment. And so I've seen different types of businesses do this, and they get on the Facebook or whatever, and they just give the customer, they don't mention no customer by name or anything, but they're kind of giving their customer a hard time for canceling an appointment. If that was me and I seen somebody cancel an appointment, and then the person was kind of talking about me, even though they didn't mention my name, I don't know that I would go back to them for service. So the biggest thing you can do in Roseburg is not get on Facebook and talk about your customer who had to cancel their appointments, because and what happens is you just need to have a business model in place that says, hey, if this customer cancels a couple of times, great, cancel. I can't rebook you anymore because, it's been 3 times now and you've cost me $200. Come up with a business model that's not giving the community of Roseburg a hard time, because what happens is the community of Roseburg, thankfully, my wife and I, a lot of people know us, and Roseburg is a loyal community. Don't get on any public forum and give anybody a hard time, even if you don't mention them by name. If they think that you are the one that they are the one you're talking about, you're hurting your business. So to fix that, don't make it a personal note to yourself that if people have canceled more than once or twice, then move on. You don't have a chance to rebook them because they're costing you money. Man, this is a loyal community. And my wife and I are just very, very thankful to be part of that loyal community, because, it gets back to having a good product and being consistent, and letting your customers know how much you appreciate them. Because without a community of appreciation, you have nothing. People don't realize, man, even selling cookies, that's a service-based business. And if we don't have customers come and support us, we don't have a business. And we don't have a business, now we got to go and try to figure out how to make ends meet with no money. At the end of the day, you need money to survive. Everybody knows that. But your interaction with your customers can determine your financial success or failure, because you're not, maybe you have an excellent product, but you're not very good face to face. You're just not very good. You have a hard time. If you don't figure out how to fix, maybe you need to get with somebody who can mentor you to show you how to have a good time in public with customers. But even that boils back down to just be yourself. Don't try to be somebody you're not. Be yourself. Being yourself. Be genuine through and through. Because, the thing about it is, if you're not genuine, people can see that too. And it just all boils back down to, in our business, we try to thank our customers as often as we can, because without their generosity, we wouldn't have a reason to be in business. And I think a lot of people in business for a period of years forget that. And if you forget that your business is because your customers come and buy your product, if you forget that, you're not going to have you're not going to have a viable business, and you will struggle the entire time you're in business. Just tell your customer thanks. Telling somebody, often customers hear thank you, not very often. They go, when's the last time your checker at the grocery store said, "Hey, thanks, Shane, for coming in today"?
Yeah.
They don't. They're checking your groceries. Have you ever noticed at the stores their name tags are turned around where you can't see their name most of the time? Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
Maybe some people that are in these jobs are done peopling.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. When people come by our purple pop-up tent, they know my name and I know their name.
Right.
And we have a good conversation over a cookie. You're not selling the cookie. The cookie's the byproduct. You're selling yourself and you're genuine person, who you are. And you happen to have a cookie and they will buy one because they're coming to say, "Hey, Tim, what's up? How you doing? You doing okay? How's your wife?"
Yeah.
That's plug into who your community is. Be genuine. Don't be fake. Do not be fake. Don't try to fake.
Yeah. No, you gotta be the real you. I mean, and that's the most valuable thing for yourself and other people. Unless, the real you is just a real jerk,
Yeah, then you shouldn't be in a people-based business.
Yeah, maybe you should not be, the front-facing person in your business. But man, I'm surprised for my journey that how much I've been able to be myself during the entire process. And I know it throws some people off, like when I get up and do a presentation and say, "I really don't want to do this presentation, guys."
You did that at the networking meeting, but that's who you are, and that's why so many people are able to relate to you. That was actually good for me to see that.
Yeah.
Because I struggle doing that, and I struggle doing this interview that I'm doing now.
Yeah.
But seeing you struggle and going, "Well, he did it. I could do it too."
Right. And that was
That's what it's all about.
That was the intention behind it, because I know that's the most relatable thing. I don't think most people want to get up there and do a presentation. If they do, then they're probably already successful enough. Just kidding. But no, yeah, I mean, that it was hard to do. But after I did that introduction and said out loud, I know a lot of growth happens when you're outside of your comfort zone. That kind of locked it in for me. And I think during the rest of the presentation, I was fine. I wasn't too anxious about it. But yeah, the idea of that I was going to have to do that 2 weeks from now, that was like, oh man, I'm not looking forward to that. So yeah, I mean, being fully transparent, just being myself up there was impactful, more impactful than getting up there. And I feel like being like a salesman, saying like, "I'm the best at this, I'm the best at that, and this is why you should work with me." Really, I don't know if people should work for me. So I don't try to sell that because I don't know nothing about them in the beginning, usually. So that's not something I typically pitch to people, but yeah.
Well, but you're so good at what you do that other people will speak in your behalf. You particularly, but I mean, aside from this interview, I talk about you all the time.
No.
I mean, that girl was talking to me, and I said, "Well, I know a guy."
That's cool.
And so, because I think if you back up what you're saying in your actions, I mean, because it appears that you struggle making a presentation to a group of people, but in your personal life, you're able to back up your actions. You can build whatever it is you're talking about, and you can pull that off. And so what I've realized is, okay, so you struggle with a group of people. I struggle with groups of people. One-on-one, I'm great.
Yeah.
I'll meet up with a group of people later, and you can do all the talking. I'll just take notes.
Right.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But get me in front of a group of people? No way, Jack.
Yeah.
And no, you're very good. And I'm not saying that for any other benefit, but
Yeah.
that like I said, I'm excited for the gal that I was able to talk to this weekend when you guys can get together and help, because that's helping people's where it's at.
Yeah. Helping people.
Just one final thing about suggestions for businesses in Roseburg to keep your clientele. Just don't get on, if somebody has ruined your pickup at a mechanic shop, it's okay to say something a little bit, but don't try to derail their business because people are loyal. And if you get online and start talking bad about somebody because they ruined your pickup or something, or they did something that made your pickup misfire, now you find yourself on the side of the road. Those are matters that need to be handled personally. And once you've done that a couple of times, if you have to call somebody out, that's a little bit different. But generally speaking, the community is very loyal. And so, I find what works best is to just, get through the episode of, okay, your truck's on the side of the road. Go back to the business that caused that incident and say, hey, listen, man, this is what happened. Can you help me? But even if they can't help you and they think they're right, even though they're wrong, the worst thing you could do is get on Facebook or these platforms and start bad-mouthing businesses, because it's just not a good practice, especially if you're another business owner. Because what happens is you start bad-mouthing the mechanic. The general public don't know the behind-the-scenes story of all the times you went there and tried to settle it before you got on Facebook or these platforms, and I'm going to show that guy. They don't know all the behind-the-scenes stuff that you tried to do. So because of that, they're going to side with the guy who messed you out of your pickup or whatever, and you're going to be the bad guy. And what's going to happen is you're going to lose business because you badmouth the mechanic, because not everybody knows both sides, but they'll just always side with their friends. And so business to business, stay off of the platforms about anything to do with, unless it's a positive interaction, don't get on any kind of public forum and badmouth the other community members, because in the end, you will lose. So
Yeah, it's really not a good thing to do. And exactly what you said, people don't know the full story. They'll just side with the other guy, whether you're in the right or wrong. And I think a big part of that is just being able to control your reaction,
yes,
not just in situations like that, all the time in business. A lot of it is in your reaction, how you're going to react to something. And, if you want to go home and scream into your pillow, that's one thing. But if you want to go on Facebook and scream into the void and make yourself look like you're highly reactive, I don't know if that's a good look for businesses. At the same time, I see people do it and they still move forward with their business. It's surprising, but they also have entire Facebook pages dedicated to how much people hate them. But that doesn't stop them either, Yeah, it's interesting.
so just try to be positive, because there's enough negative on the day-to-day when you've done everything right. Some people are just hard to please, and so they're always going to find something wrong with anything that they're doing. And they may stop at your location and take it out on you today, but you know what? That has to be okay, because that's just part of the nature of what you're doing.
Right.
Being in business, unfortunately, it's just part of business. You have to deal with it. Just deal with it with a smile on your face as best you can, and just know that at the end of the day, you've done the best you can.
Yeah.
And some people you're just not going to make happy.
Right.
And just leave it at that. The worst thing you can do is get on public forum and tell the world about it, because at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to pay for that, nobody else.
Yeah. I think the intentions behind how you run your business are pretty important. It changes a lot of different things. Intentions and what you understand about people can yeah.
Make you or break you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know there's business owners out there that their primary intention, I don't think there's necessarily much wrong with it, but it's just to sell stuff and make money, period. And like I said, it's not bad, but it's not something I look at like something that I would want to do. I'm far more relationship based with people, and I think that's an interesting take on how it's like sales based business or commission salespeople go out there and they sell. They just sell, and they'll lie or whatever they got to do to get the money. And it's interesting interacting with businesses that are like that.
Well, I think by the end of the day, everybody knows that everybody has to have money to pay their bills. Okay,
Right.
that's the bottom line. Everybody knows that. Okay, so if you are aware of that, then let's just be friends and talk to. If my friends would come by and visit with me once in a while, that's great.
Yeah.
And thanks for coming by. And they know that we need support, so they buy a cookie. Or, I mean, back in the day it was burgers. Today it's cookies.
Right.
And that's the nice thing about business for me was I didn't realize how many friends you would make in the business being in business, how you could make a ton of friends. And we have made a ton of friends. I know when I got sick several years back, I had customers come into my house helping me, and one guy came to my house to pick my trash up to take it to the dump for me.
Wow.
I mean, that guy, to him, he's just making a stop because he was already headed to the dump. He come by my house. That changed my life. When you're sick with chemo and can't get off the couch, and somebody comes in and helps you take your trash, that's neither here nor there. It's a little thing to some people. To me, it was huge.
Yeah.
I couldn't lift the garbage bag to put in his truck. He had to do it, and so the little things. I had customers, sent me cards, tried to pay my bills for me and stuff like that. And a lot of the customers did pay my bills when I was sick. And family and friends, a lot of friends from the business paid some of my bills. And when I say some of my bills, a lot of some of my bills.
Wow.
Because there was a point where we had exhausted the retirement, and now we're down to zero. And that's when people showed up and they started taking care of us. And I didn't tell a whole lot of people my story on our lack of finances. I trusted God with that, and God didn't let me down. So
That's incredible.
it was pretty miraculous to watch.
Yeah. And that ties kind of back into the community thing. So it's like community, not just with other business owners and entrepreneurs, but your customer base. And it's like, that's just a result of you taking care of them, you being, having good service and being who you are.
Yeah, when I was sick, man, I'd go to my mailbox when I could get there, and it was stuffed full of cards all the time. When you have a Christmas, you have a wall dedicated to cards if you have a big family. I have a big family, so we have a wall dedicated for Christmas for the cards. And it would take up, literally that whole section right there, top to bottom, 10 feet, 12 feet by 10, 12 feet. When I got sick, my Christmas wall became my sick card wall, and I had so many cards, that wall was full, and I had a stack on the table.
Wow.
Customers.
Really?
Every single one of them, customers. And, the funny thing about it is they didn't send empty cards. There was gift cards in there for different foods. There was checks in there for money here. And they said, pay this bill with it or whatever, And like I said, we didn't make a big deal. And people would ask, and I'd say, I just really don't feel comfortable talking about that. I didn't tell them. And so I had one customer 3 different times, 4 different times, bring an envelope full of money and hand it to my wife. Said, here, this is because you guys need money and I know you're sick. And that happened 4 or 5 times, 3 or 4 times. I mean, an envelope stuffed full of, 50s and hundreds. I mean, to the tune of a lot of money. And it was just ridiculous how, I was just working my business and having a good time doing it and making friends along the way. And when I got sick, those friends came back, and it was honest to goodness, they took care of us. And so here it is, I haven't done burgers in like 6 years, and we still have good friends. And those good friends stop by our tent and buy cookies now. But I mean, just the lifelong friendship aspect of it. And when I had my first day in the burger business, my goal wasn't to go make friends. My goal was to make a good burger, and maybe you'd buy it and liked it enough, you come back. But the benefit of owning a business, if you're in tune to it, is the friendships that you can make along the way. And those are very important. I have a lot of good friends. I have one friend made me a walking stick so I could walk while I was trying to repair. I've got a walking stick that a friend of mine made. He's a friend of mine from the business. He was just a customer that became a friend. And all these years later, he made me a walking stick when I was sick. And I still have that walking stick.
Wow.
Just amazing some of the things the customers have done.
Yeah.
Because they've become my friends.
It's insane. Yeah, I've made a lot of friends just doing this. I don't know how else I would have made friends. It was always like coworkers. Coworkers would become my friend, But doing the business thing, it's like times 10, the amount of people that I'm meeting, and it's incredible. And having that source of community it really helps push me forward. So I'm not having to like run my business in a vacuum. I'm not feeling like I'm totally alone. Like there's people that I could reach out for help if I needed it, or same for them too. And it's so important to have that, not just as a business owner, but as a person. And I know it's something that it can be hard to find. It's a hard thing to find new people like that, or getting yourself out there, especially these days when it's all online and there's not that many places to gather and just talk to people. But it's
Right.
been instrumental.
Yeah, well, good. I think you're a good guy, and you're going to become my friend. You don't know this yet, but you're
Oh.
going to become my friend.
Where do I gotta fill out the
Oh
application?
no, we don't take applications.
I don't take applications.
We test your sincerity, and then okay, that guy's good. That guy's good.
So, and that's kind of the reason behind this podcast, is to provide people with a space to tell their story and talk about who they are as a person, and why they're running their business, why they do what they do, how they operate, and get that story out there to the public. A lot of times, when you're driving by a business or walking past a booth at a market or whatever it is, there's people aren't actually thinking about who is this person that's out here. And when I had the realization, and I witnessed it for myself, seeing some like 75-year-old lady set up a booth at a market, and it's 95 degrees that day, and she sets up all her stuff and sits there for 6 hours, and people walk by. Not that many people ask questions or interact too much. Some people don't even say anything. They just kind of skim their stuff and then move on. But like actually witnessing it and then wondering what that person is feeling, why they're even out there. Because I mean, it could be that they are on a fixed income and this is like their only other way of paying the bills or getting meat on the table. And like, it takes all this extra effort to get out there and do that. So when I started asking people why, and learning that sometimes that was the case, it was like this is their only extra form of income. And there's plenty of other people that would not sit out in a 95-degree day in a tent for anything. But this person is practically having to do it. And I know that it meant a big difference that I stopped by and asked them what's going on. And yeah.
It does mean a lot, because people are so wrapped up in their personal lives that they're just going 100 miles an hour. So they don't have time. They don't want to take the time to ask the why, or, hey, how you doing today? And so it could be a hard, lonely, hot road, because, that lady that's 75 that set up in the 95-degree heat, that's a tough gig, dude. And for somebody to just say, hey, man, I'm glad to see you today. Not require anything of that person. Just say, I'm glad to see you today. I'm glad that you're next to me in the market and that we can kind of chat a little bit, and because you can turn that into a good thing.
Right.
But the hard part about that is the general public doesn't really look for that kind of stuff. And so, because we're too busy, we're so busy in society, we can't take time for that. And man, how rich your life could be if you would start taking time to ask your customer, hey, it's good to see you, man. What's going on in your world today? You know, and they'll either tell you or they won't, but at least you've extended the opportunity to give them a chance to tell you, maybe they told you something that is bothering them. Maybe they won't, but just your generosity in asking, hey, how you doing, could mean the world to somebody.
Absolutely. It could change their whole day.
Even
if they don't sell anything.
Right, absolutely.
I know those conversations, they inspired me. It really, taking in their perspective of things was,
right.
I learned a lot from it.
Yep.
And people should take more time to do stuff like that, because there's some real passionate people out here that are just grinding away in the dark, in silence, and just one conversation and
change their whole day.
It can change their whole day, and it can change you. Getting the community more connected is a huge long-term goal. A lot of stuff has changed since like the internet and AI and social media. So finding those little moments to get people connected to each other, hear each other's stories, and relate to one another is huge, especially in a community like Roseburg, when you've got opinions just flying loosely on social media that people never dig any deeper into, but they just completely agree with. I mean, you just never know. So being able to take the time to find out why or listen to somebody's why of what they do is really important and will help all of us grow. So, with that all being said, I think that shall conclude this episode of The Outlet. Tim, it's been a pleasure. Uh, really great story, really inspiring, and I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad to spend some time with you too, Shane. You're a pretty good guy, and to be able to tell my story. I will say this: Mama Ginger is my wife, and she's been cooking cookies for 40 years, but Mama Ginger's did become Mama Ginger because all the kids throughout that 40 years that she's interacted with call her Mama Ginger, and that's where that name came from. And I just wanted to throw that out there. That wasn't a name we just came up with. That was put there because the kids refer to her as Mama Ginger. So when you see Mama Ginger's cookies, it's because the kids kind of nicknamed her. And even people that are older than her that she has worked with previously refer to her without any suggesting at all, have come up with the name Mama Ginger. So Mama Ginger tends to mother over people, and she becomes a lot of people, older or younger, mother. And so that's where Mama Ginger's cookies comes from.
Wow. Truly a name bred from impact.
Impact, yes.
Yeah, lots
yes.
of impact. It's amazing.
So it's been great to be on your show. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much, Shane.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, Douglas County. Have a good weekend.